Hello there, my fellow nerds. Welcome back once again to another breakdown of The Bad Batch. I'm Scott from BadCuzDad, and today we're taking a look at Episode 10, Retrieval. We pick up with the Batch right where we left off in Episode 9. A reinvigorated Omega, fresh off a wonderful heart-to-heart with Tech, is pondering their next move to get off this desolate mining world. Stranded on an abandoned small spaceport, the crew is trying to piece together the remains of an old speeder so they can at least conjure up a means of transportation. Omega comes up with an ingenious idea that using the high-powered transponder, she can probably track Gonki's signature, since he's still on the ship that was stolen. If she can find the Gonk, she can find the ship. After plugging into the transponder, she pings a location, and the crew realizes that the ship is still on the planet. Actually not all that far away. We cut to the Marauder, where the masked thief is seen blindly piloting the ship because he's too small to see over the controls. He removes his mask, and we see that he's just a kid, and he goes by the name Benny. He radios in to tell his boss that he's coming in with a solid find, and he thinks that he'll be happy about this one. Essentially, throughout this episode, we find out that Benny and the other kids like him at the facility are just basically miners and scavengers, and they're just simple youngins trying to make their way in the galaxy. Benny lands the ship and is greeted by his boss, a large, grumpy-looking fellow with a robotic arm and a cane that looks like a cross between Gothmog from Lord of the Rings and Sloth from the Goonies. Hey, you guys. Sorry. I had to. Anyways, this guy goes by the name of Mako. No, I didn't just develop a Bostonian accent. It's not Marco, it's Mako, and it's wicked awesome. Reeling it back in. So this guy Mako is basically a low-tier mob boss who is essentially exploiting these kids who are just trying to survive. He has them mining Ipsium and other odd jobs just to make a low wage and scrounge for sustenance. He tells Benny that he's proud of his loot and dangles the promise of more opportunities going forward, but legit gives Benny a sip of water for a ship. Yeah, you heard that right. A sip of water for a ship. And he has the gall to take a big sip himself before giving Benny the remainder. Yeah, this guy is all about manipulation and hoarding for himself and treats his employees like utter garbage. Stick around. I promise this will get better towards the end. Meanwhile, the Batch manages to get the speeder working, and they all pile on and head to the location of Gonki. As Benny is messing around with Gonki, trying to see if there's anything of value on him, the Batch surrounds him in a Marvel-esque fashion and are there to block him at every step of the way as he tries to quickly escape. Wrecker clotheslines him off his speeder, and Omega meets him with a drawn bow to the face. I find it hilarious in this episode that Wrecker's primary lines of dialogue was just him grunting at Benny the whole time whenever he tried to wiggle or weasel out of something. They tell Benny that he's going to get them to the ship and he's going to help them get out of there, whether he likes it or not. After rappelling down a risky exhaust vent, the crew makes it to the Marauder, and they see that Mako's crew is starting to strip it for parts, and the hyperdrive was already removed. While it may take a hot minute for them to repair it and get it up and running, they task Omega to go with Benny to make sure they can disable the ray shield surrounding the facility. She goes with him, and Benny decides they should stop in the living quarters first so he can get the access key to the mainframe, and he also wants to stick around to see if he's the winner of the week for scoring the biggest loot. Before coming to grace his subordinates with his presence, we see Mako in his private quarters just straight up jobbing himself with the little rations, quote-unquote, that they have. Mako comes to award one of his crew members as the winner of the latest competition with a hearty bowl of soup. Yup, just one bowl of soup. Then, to show his gratitude even further, he brings one more bowl of soup to the entire crew so they can share it communally. This guy's a real piece of work. Anyways, with the key in hand, Benny and Omega head to the mainframe room. They're able to have a small heart-to-heart, and Omega, being the kind person that she is, offers Benny her rations. Seriously, can Omega get any sweeter? This girl is just one giant beam of sunshine. During her search on the mainframe, she also notices that the Ipsium is not in fact degrading, as Mako had told them. There is plenty of good Ipsium there, and he makes Benny take a second look into the situation. However, Benny has been conditioned to be a survivor, to know that he's the only one that can watch his back. With Omega and the crew separated, all he can see is opportunity. Before they can finish the download, Mako and his personal droids show up, and it seems that there's treachery afoot. Benny had turned her in. Come on, Benny. As Omega leaves the room, though, we can see the conflict residing within him. As the batch is repairing the hyperdrive, they are discovered by two of Mako's crew, and Hunter takes off after them. When they get to the bridge of the mining sector, Mako meets them and reveals to them that he has Omega, and he threatens to have his droid toss her off the bridge into the liquid hot magma below. Without any other move to play, the batch lower their weapons. But in the background, Benny appears, and he reveals to his fellow miscreants that Mako has been exploiting them the whole time, taking most of the profits for the Ipsium that he had told them was degraded. In a last-ditch effort to stave them off, Mako ordered his droids to toss Omega. As Omega and the droid go plunging down, Hunter channels his inner Batman and grapples his way vertically, catching Omega in her freefall. As Mako swings his pimp cane around, he throws too much of his gluttonous weight into a swing that flings him over the railing and plunges down to the depths below. You're an enormous pile of bantha poodoo, Mako, but that was a wicked awesome fall. As the batch gets ready for their departure, Benny brings back the rest of their stuff and thanks them, and especially Omega. She asked him what they'll do now, and he says that they'll keep mining and share the profits the right way. He also tells her that if they're ever in need of a thief, he owes her one. She takes a quiet moment in thought as Tech approaches her, and she says that the Empire is not even here, but we've seen so many instances where people like Mako act just like they do, exploiting others for power and greed. And in the best part of the episode for me, Tech says, yes, but thankfully there are many like us as well, and that is something. And oh my nerdgasm, guys, the music and roll credits. So here's my thoughts. We have 5 episodes left, and I believe this is the last filler that we'll see. You know what? I don't even like calling these fillers, because as long as a coherent and fine-tuned story is being written, I have no problem with episodes like this. This particular episode showed us the new lens that Tech and Omega are looking through, and that theme of hope is starting to come through. The galaxy is a big place, and in their travels, they are witnessing so much bad, yet also so much good. They're starting to realize that they can make a difference at any level. And the music at the end is the symbolism to the growing factions that are starting to form the rebellion that we know. Tech's reference to there being others like them is a pure connection to all the other heroes we've watched take up fight against tyranny and corruption. Not only does this theme, of course, make me think of Luke, but when I heard it at the end of this episode, I couldn't help but think about Lucen, Cassian, Hera, Kanan, Cal, Saw, Ezra, Mon Mothma, and the list goes on. To me, this is just the true nature and brilliance of the Bad Batch. It's furthering the narrative of the rise of the rebellion and the spectacular characters that it's comprised of. I expect things to start really taking off for an end of the season boom. Well, my friends, thanks for tuning in. Let us know what you think in the comments and stay tuned for future content. I am Scott once again from BadCuzDad, and I'll see you next time.